Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the English Daily Book Summary YouTube channel. In order to not stop learning, listen to an English book summary every day for free.
Elizabeth Weingarten, How to Fall in Love with Questions, A New Way to Thrive in Times of Uncertainty. The most innovative minds throughout history shared one surprising trait. They embraced uncertainty instead of fighting it. They knew the right questions can open up possibilities that certainty shuts down. When you surrender the need to know everything, you gain access to deeper understanding, more authentic connections, and unexpected breakthroughs. This blank shows that falling in love with questions isn't about finding the fastest route to an answer. It's about reshaping your relationship with uncertainty, turning it from something to fear into a compass for growth. The most valuable insights often emerge from patiently living inside your questions, allowing their complexity to unfold. The power of curiosity. Curiosity might be one of the most undervalued qualities in the modern world. The tendency to ask questions is an inborn human trait, but it often diminishes as we grow older. In adulthood, many of us become more concerned with having the answers than exploring the possibilities. Yet curiosity is the gateway to deeper understanding and a more meaningful connection with the world. Our brains naturally seek certainty and closure. This biological tendency served our ancestors well for survival, but can limit our growth in a complex world. By intentionally cultivating curiosity, we can push against this tendency to close down and expand our understanding. When you embrace curiosity, you open yourself to new perspectives, ideas, and paths. But it means acknowledging what you don't know, rather than clinging to what you believe. The most innovative thinkers throughout history maintained their sense of wonder well into adulthood. They recognized that uncertainty wasn't a problem to solve, but a space where discovery happens. Consider Alexander Fleming and his discovery of penicillin. Fleming noticed something unusual in his lab when a mold contaminated one of his bacteria cultures. Instead of discarding it as a failed experiment, his curiosity drove him to explore why bacteria weren't growing near the mold. This choice of curious observation over frustrated dismissal eventually led to one of the most important medical discoveries in human history. Fleming's willingness to pause and question the unexpected changed the course of modern medicine and saved countless lives. Think about a recent situation where you felt certain about something, only to learn new information that changed your perspective. That moment of realization, that shift in understanding, happened because you allowed space for new information to enter. This willingness to remain open is at the heart of meaningful growth. Curiosity works best when practiced regularly. You can strengthen this muscle by adopting simple daily habits. At the end of each day, take 5 minutes to identify something you learned or a perspective that shifted. Notice how this learning came about. Was it through a question you asked? Something you observed? Information you sought out? You can also practice what Weingarten calls curious listening. When you're talking to someone, try focusing fully on their perspective instead of thinking about what you'll say next. Listen for what sparks your curiosity and follow that thread with real interest. Start small. Pick one conversation today where you ask at least 2 follow-up questions before offering your own take. Chances are, you'll walk away having learned something new. Questions as relationship tools. Thoughtful questions have the power to build bridges between people, forge understanding and trust, and create space for real connection to develop. When you ask questions that come from a place of genuine interest rather than obligation, you signal to others that you value their thoughts and experiences. The quality of your questions directly influences the quality of your relationship, too. Closed questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no rarely lead to meaningful exchanges. On the other hand, open questions that invite reflection and storytelling create opportunities for sharing. Transformative relationships grow when you use questions to explore deeper thoughts, beliefs, and experiences, strengthening your bonds over time. Consider the case of Studs Terkel, the renowned oral historian who documented ordinary American lives throughout the 20th century. Terkel interviewed thousands of people from all walks of life, from factory workers to jazz musicians. His remarkable ability to connect with strangers stemmed from his authentic curiosity about their experiences. He asked questions that made people feel seen and valued, creating instant rapport even with those who were initially hesitant to share. In doing so, he connected with them even in short conversations, which encouraged more openness. Ultimately, his work preserved the voices of everyday Americans precisely because he mastered the art of asking questions. You can transform your own relationships by shifting from a statement-based to a question-based communication style. When a friend shares a challenge, your instinct might be to offer advice or relate a similar experience. Instead, try asking them a question that will help them reflect on the situation. For instance, you could ask what feels most difficult about their situation, or what support would be most helpful to them. This approach acknowledges that they're the expert on their own experience. To start making questions a practice, identify one important relationship in your life. During your next conversation, aim to ask at least 3 open questions that invite this person to share more deeply. Focus on questions that begin with how or what. These tend to invite more thoughtful responses than why questions, which can sometimes feel judgmental. Notice how this shifts the dynamic of your interaction. At home, try asking your partner or family member what aspect of their day felt most energizing, or what they're looking forward to in the coming week. With friends, you might ask what they've learned about themselves lately, or what has surprised them most about a recent experience. At work, asking what's making a project tough, or what kind of support would help a teammate feel more successful, can open the door to real collaboration. The key is asking with genuine curiosity, and then listening to understand. Questions as a path to self-knowledge. Open questions can reshape how you connect with others, but they're just as powerful when turned inward. Asking yourself thoughtful questions helps you step off autopilot and get curious about your values, desires, and patterns. It's through this kind of steady reflection that real self-understanding grows, and your actions start to align with who you really are. The most valuable self-directed questions often challenge your assumptions about yourself and invite you to look beyond habitual patterns of thinking. These questions can reveal blind spots in your self-perception and illuminate paths forward that might otherwise remain hidden. The process requires courage. After all, honest self-inquiry sometimes leads to uncomfortable truths. But this discomfort often precedes meaningful growth and deeper self-acceptance. By questioning your own narratives and beliefs, you gain greater agency in shaping your life according to what truly matters to you. Consider the journey of Eleanor Roosevelt, who transformed from a shy, insecure young woman into one of the most influential figures of the 20th century. Throughout her life, Roosevelt maintained a practice of self-reflection, regularly questioning her assumptions and challenging her fears. When faced with limitations imposed by society or her own doubts, she asked herself what she could do despite these constraints. This ongoing self-inquiry led her to continually expand her vision of what was possible, ultimately enabling her to redefine the role of First Lady and later become a powerful advocate for human rights. Her famous advice to do something every day that scares you emerged from her own practice of questioning her boundaries and pushing beyond them. You can develop a similar practice of self-inquiry by setting aside time for regular reflection. Begin each morning by asking what would make today meaningful, or end each day by considering what you learned about yourself. When you ask these simple questions regularly, they start to uncover patterns and insights about yourself over time. To go a little deeper, try creating a personal board of directors in your mind. Identify several people, living or historical, whose wisdom you admire. When facing a difficult decision, imagine asking each of them what perspective they'd offer. This mental exercise can help you access different parts of your own wisdom and consider multiple viewpoints on your situation. Finally, practice questioning your own certainties. When you find yourself absolutely convinced about something, especially about your own limitations, ask what evidence might contradict this belief. Let yourself wonder about what might be possible if this limitation didn't exist. These questions create space for new possibilities and help you avoid becoming trapped in fixed narratives about who you are and what you can achieve. Questions at work. The workplace often rewards quick answers and confident assertions, but the most innovative organizations and successful careers are built on honoring uncertainty and asking thoughtful questions. When you embrace inquiry at work, you open doors to creativity, collaboration, and advancement that remain closed to those who prioritize appearing knowledgeable over being curious. Many workplace cultures subtly discourage questioning. People worry that asking questions might mean appearing ignorant or incompetent. But fear more often leads to missed opportunities for learning and improvement. By shifting your perspective to view questions as tools for growth rather than signs of weakness, you'll transform how you approach your professional life. Questions serve multiple purposes in professional settings. They help you gather essential information, uncover hidden assumptions, build stronger relationships with colleagues, and demonstrate your engagement with projects and ideas. A well-timed question can shift a team toward more productive paths and uncover solutions that might otherwise go unnoticed. As an example, take the story of Claude Shannon, often called the father of information theory. As a young engineer at Bell Labs in the 1940s, Shannon approached his work with a deep curiosity. While others focused on improving existing communication systems, Shannon asked more fundamental questions about the nature of information itself. He wondered how information could be quantified and transmitted more efficiently. This seemingly simple shift in questioning led Shannon to develop mathematical frameworks that eventually led to the digital revolution we live in today. His willingness to question basic assumptions, rather than accepting conventional wisdom, enabled breakthroughs that transformed not just his field, but the entire world. Shannon's questions opened up entire industries that nobody could have imagined at the time. You can harness the power of questions in your own career by developing a questioning routine. Before meetings, prepare 2 or 3 thoughtful questions related to the topic. This practice ensures you'll actively participate and signals your engagement to others. After completing projects, gather your team and ask what went well, what could be improved, and what surprised everyone. These reflection questions will help build a culture of continuous learning. When joining a new team or organization, create a learning map by identifying key people and scheduling short conversations with them. Ask about their roles, their challenges, and what they wish they'd known when starting. This approach expands your network and adds valuable context to your work. Finally, practice posing more expansive questions when tackling problems. Instead of immediately asking how to fix an issue, first ask what success would look like if the issue were resolved completely. This broader framing often leads to more innovative approaches. By making questions central to your professional identity, you'll position yourself as someone who drives progress and inspires others to think more deeply about their work. Living the questions. In earlier sections, we saw how asking the right questions can transform relationships, workplaces, and even help uncover your underlying values, ethics, and beliefs. But one thing is certain. Even if you ask all the right questions at all the right times, you're still likely to experience uncertainty. In fact, questions can lead to more uncertainty rather than less. That's not a bug in the system. It's a feature. Most people experience uncertainty as profoundly uncomfortable, even threatening. The natural human response is to seek resolution, to find answers that restore a sense of order and control. But there's another approach: learning to live inside the questions themselves. This means developing the capacity to remain open and curious, even when clear answers remain elusive. Living your questions requires a fundamental shift in how you relate to uncertainty. Rather than viewing unresolved questions as problems to overcome, you begin to see them as spaces of possibility where new understanding can emerge. This shift turns uncertainty from something to fear into new horizons to explore with curiosity and excitement. Your ability to tolerate ambiguity will also grow stronger with practice. Each time you resist the urge to grasp for instant closure and instead remain present with your questions, you'll build this essential capacity. Over time, this practice will change not just how you think, but how you experience your life, relationships, and work. Consider the journey of physicist Richard Feynman, known not just for his scientific brilliance, but for his remarkable comfort with uncertainty. Throughout his career, Feynman maintained what he called a state of confused wonder. When confronted with phenomena he couldn't explain, he delighted in the mystery instead of getting frustrated. This willingness to dwell in uncertainty led him to groundbreaking discoveries in quantum electrodynamics that earned him the Nobel Prize. Feynman often told students that confusion wasn't a failure, but a prerequisite for learning. His ability to find joy in not knowing allowed him to push past conventional thinking and develop entirely new approaches to physics. And his comfort with living inside difficult questions ultimately transformed science itself. You, too, can cultivate this capacity in your daily life. When facing complex situations, try pausing before rushing to conclusions. Acknowledge the discomfort of not knowing, and stay with that feeling for a few moments longer than usual. Notice what insights emerge when you create this space. Practice distinguishing between questions that truly need immediate answers and those that benefit from extended consideration. Some of the most important questions in life unfold gradually, revealing deeper layers of meaning over time. Give these questions the space they deserve by returning to them regularly without demanding instant resolution. Finally, consider keeping a question journal where you record the questions that matter most to you. Review these periodically without pressuring yourself to find definitive answers. Instead, notice how your relationship to these questions evolves. This practice celebrates the journey of inquiry as valuable in its own right, not just as a stepping stone to an answer. In this blink to How to Fall in Love with Questions by Elizabeth Weingarten, you've learned that curiosity can transform your understanding of the world when you prioritize exploration over seeking quick answers. Questions build deeper connections in relationships by creating space for authentic expression, rather than defaulting to advice giving or problem solving. Self-directed inquiry reveals your blind spots and assumptions, helping align your actions with your values. And at work, thoughtful questioning drives innovation and advancement more effectively than projecting false confidence. Becoming comfortable with uncertainty, learning to live inside your questions rather than rushing to resolve them, is the ultimate practice that transforms it from something feared into a guide for meaningful growth across all areas of life. Okay, that's it for this Blink. We hope you enjoyed it. If you can, please take the time to leave us a rating. We always appreciate your feedback. See you soon.